It's never too early to talk about the Oscars. Or is it? Doesn't matter. We're doing it anyway. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Way too early. I've done this once before. I did it last year before the pandemic. That didn't go well. And it went so bad, I made a video making fun of myself for that. But this year, hopefully things go a little bit better. And again, look, I know it's really early. We don't even know a lot about these films. But I love making predictions like this. And I'm going to do it. And if I'm wrong, well, then we can look back and make fun of myself a little bit later. But I believe this year at least has a better shot of delivering some of these, because hopefully they at least come out this year. So we're going to talk about it. I have 10 films that I'm going to predict as my top 10. We're going to do honorable mentions first, but as you guys know, this year's Oscars is the first one in a long time to have a firm 10 nominees, and hopefully it stays that way. And of course, there are going to be movies that I miss out on, some films like Killers of the Flower Moon that I just don't think have a chance of coming out in that time slot. But as for the movies that I believe are going to come out or are most likely going to come out, we're going to include them on this list. And of course, if I miss some films, please leave your comments and thoughts down below. Do you agree with my list? Is it too early? Yes. But if you enjoy this video, be sure to drop your thumbs up, because if you like it, we may come back and do some different kinds of early Oscar videos along the way, getting to Oscar season. But let's get right into it. We're going to start with my honorable mentions, the films that I'm going to put on here just in case they slip into that top 10, so we can look back and say, hey, I really did talk about those, even though I didn't put them in my top 10. But these movies have really good shots. And probably the most difficult film that I had to exclude from my top 10, because it doesn't really feel like it right now, but this year looks to be stacked with great directors, and we'll talk about them, great casts all around, and one big one that is just right outside of my top 10. And if we're talking my most anticipated movies in general, this is absolutely in my top 10. But for some reason, I think the other 10 movies that we're going to talk about may just slip in before. But do not discount The French Dispatch. We know Wes Anderson. We know that the Academy is starting to really come around on his films and love him. Now, just because he's gotten one in more recently doesn't mean that that trend is going to continue, and that's partially why I kept it outside of my top 10, because we really only have the Grand Budapest Hotel to look back on recently and say, yes, he got it, and he's going to get those nominations. And The French Dispatch, there's a lot going on here in terms of the story, but in my heart, I know this is probably a movie I'm going to love. I hope the Academy feels the same way. I believe his style warrants awards consideration constantly. And then you look at the cast and how incredible it is as a whole, from Frances McDormand to Elizabeth Moss, Timothée Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Edward Norton, Christoph Waltz, Willem Dafoe. I could keep going. Owen Wilson. Wow, this is going to be an incredible experience. It's right outside of my top 10. Let's move into the next movie I have here. And this is one that personally, I hope it gets into that top 10 at the end of the year. I hope it gets a Best Picture nomination, because The Northman has me fired up. Now, this is Robert Eggers' first venture outside of A24. I believe its focus features, but set in Ireland at the turn of the 10th century, a Nordic prince sets out on a mission of revenge after his father is murdered. And the cast: Anya Taylor-Joy, who is having, or is going to have, hopefully, an incredible year. Skarsgård, Kidman, Willem Dafoe is in this film. But it's like this period piece, fantastical epic, and the only reason that I'm keeping it outside of that top 10 is because sometimes, I mean, look at The Lighthouse, right? The Oscars don't look at these really dark, horrific films in the same vein as some of these other movies. Now, this does have a fantasy twist, and it is a period piece, so maybe it has a better chance if it is of the quality that I expect, but I have The Northman right outside of my top 10, just because when you look at the genre features, it's really tough to compete with some of these other types of movies, and that's why I have The Eternals outside of my top 10. Now, deep down, you guys know, love me some superheroes, love me some MCU. You know I want to put this in my top 10. But this is not a video of what I want to be a Best Picture nomination. This is a predictions video. And that's why I'm going to keep Eternals out, even though maybe even out of all of my honorable mentions, it has the best chance because of Chloe Zhao and what Marvel is saying about this film. There was a tweet by my good friend Diego on Twitter. He says, Marvel is essentially looking at this film. They didn't even know they had this on their hands. It's unlike anything else they have ever seen from this studio. And remember, Black Panther got the Best Picture nomination. So I think this has a great shot. You look at the cast: Jolie, Richard Madden, Gemma Chan, Selma Hayek, Kit Harington. It looks awesome. I feel like this is going to be awesome, and it's one of those movies that you just can't overlook at the end of the day. And you look at some of the pictures that we got released a bit earlier, and some of these beautiful, almost painting-like shots that I believe are going to make for one of the best Marvel movies maybe we have seen in a long time. It looks beautiful. Another one that, honestly, I'm looking forward to more than a lot of the movies in my top 10, but you guys know, I can't wait to see Last Night in Soho. Edgar Wright, he is just that kind of director, and after Baby Driver, I'm sitting back saying, maybe this has a good shot at getting some more love from the Academy. Again, Anya Taylor-Joy. Oh my goodness, she is about to have maybe the best year of her career, but it just looks really, really cool. I believe it's one of those films that could be maybe a bit too stylistic to warrant that Best Picture nomination, and the time travel element may throw some people off, but overall, it's one of those films that I believe has a good shot. Then we have Don't Worry, Darling. I had to throw the brand new Olivia Wilde film on this list. It's just, it's one of those movies that I've been looking at for a while, saying maybe that has a good shot. Maybe Wilde's next feature in this one could be her first real big Academy-loved and respected pictures. We have Chris Pine, Harry Styles, Florence Pugh. The cast is really, really good. And then we look at just some of the behind-the-scenes pictures and where this movie looks like it's going. I believe it has a good shot to warrant some love, maybe a screenplay, but Olivia Wilde is turning into one of those directors that we just have to be on the lookout for every time there is a brand new feature. The next film I want to talk about is Annette, and this trailer is already out. A lot of these don't even have trailers yet, but Annette is one of those films that is going to make a huge impact, in my opinion. Premiering at the Cannes Film Festival, Adam Driver, Marion Cotillard. The trailer is wild. It's all about a stand-up comedian and his opera singer wife who have a 2-year-old daughter with a surprising gift. This is definitely a cinematography possibility, in my opinion, along with Adam Driver, who could get a nod, as well as Marion Cotillard. I'm curious to see what actually happens with the film, if it's good enough to warrant that Best Picture nomination. In my opinion, maybe on the outside looking in there, but I'm really looking forward to it. Next up, A Journal for Jordan. This is directed by Denzel Washington, starring Michael B. Jordan. This movie looks really, really good. The release date is like prime Oscar time. We know Denzel Washington can bring out good performances from his actors, and I think Michael B. Jordan could be looked at there. In terms of getting that Best Picture nod, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to get there, but the premise is really good, and the release date kind of tells me that they expect something for the film. We just got our first look at Stillwater. This is the brand new Tom McCarthy film starring Matt Damon. He looks a lot like Jesse Plemons in all the pictures. Father travels from Oklahoma to France to help his daughter, who has been arrested for murder. Now, we know Tom McCarthy got a lot of love for Spotlight, and that was kind of the feature that I'm looking at and saying, well, maybe Stillwater could be that movie, just from looking at the poster and then the release date, July. When you see a July release date, another film aside that we're going to talk about, I don't know if this is the movie that's going to get Tom McCarthy back. I think the images look really good. I think Matt Damon could slide in. I have to throw it on this list because of Tom McCarthy, but for me, it just kind of feels like that film that may underwhelm some people at the end of the day, even though I'm looking forward to it. The next film I want to bring up is Mike Mills' Come On, Come On. An artist embarks on a cross-country trip with his young nephew, Joaquin Phoenix. That's the name to look at here, and it's an A24 film. So all of those things combined tells me that this could be something special. Now, the premise alone doesn't tell me Best Picture specifically, but it does tell me maybe Joaquin slides in for Best Actor. So I'm going to throw it on this list just in case it exceeds those kinds of expectations. But as for my expectations, it does sound like a movie that I'm thoroughly going to enjoy. The next movie is a movie that I've already seen, the first one on this list that I have seen, and that is Mass, directed by Fran Kranz, starring Jason Isaacs, Martha Plimpton, Ann Dowd. Ann Dowd, in my opinion, is assuredly, after seeing this film, going to get an Oscar nomination. It is just a very simple movie of four individuals sitting around a table and talking about a tragic event, and it runs through the dialogue. It's almost the perfect kind of movie that the Oscars warrant for a Best Picture. Part of me believes that because of some of the other films coming out, it's just going to miss that boat, but in terms of actor and actress nominations, I think it's going to be there. I loved it. I thought it was really, really well made. It's going to break your heart. It's going to make you emotional. Maybe that gets it in the Best Picture discussion, but as for me, it's right outside of my list. Two more movies in the honorable mentions, folks, I promise. Blonde is the next one, Andrew Dominik. Ana de Armas, I'm just so excited about in this film. It's a chronicle of the life of Marilyn Monroe, and we know that the Oscars love biopics. They definitely love Ana de Armas. Well, we love Ana de Armas. I hope they're going to love her in this role. So I see Best Actress. Beyond that, maybe Best Picture if the movie is good enough. But Blonde is one that I think has a good shot of being on that level. And then the final film I'm talking about in the honorable mentions is called The Power of the Dog. A pair of brothers who own a large ranch in Montana are pitted against each other when one of them gets married. And part of my reasoning for putting this on the list is the cast: Benedict Cumberbatch, Jesse Plemons, and Kirsten Dunst, who's, back in a movie. Okay. This could be kind of one of those powerhouse casts that puts it in one of the categories. Best Picture, obviously it's last on my honorable mention, so I think that's kind of out of the realm of the possibility, but do not overlook it. All right, honorable mentions done. Let's get into my top 10, and we're going to start with the one that I believe has the least likely chance and move our way up to the one that I believe is almost assured to get in if it's as good as we think it's going to be. Don't Look Up. I understand. Austin, the Academy loves Adam McKay. Why is it this far down your list? The only reason is because what he has worked with so far has been these true stories, right? And his comedies haven't necessarily thrived with the Academy like his more serious films. Now, this one is going to be serious, absolutely, to a T, but it's also described more so as a comedy than his Oscar-nominated films, right? So this is going to be far more comedic, even though the cast really warrants a nomination. Let's take a look. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Timothée Chalamet, Cate Blanchett, Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill. It's got to be in my top 10. How is that cast not in my top 10? Even down to Mark Rylance and Tyler Perry. Matthew Perry. Interesting. But I'm just really excited for this film. But the Academy, they don't often look at comedies, like pure comedies, like they do some other films. And even though there will be that seriousness, it does have that comedy element, and it's not based on a true story. It's two low-level astronomers who must go on a giant media tour to warn mankind of an approaching comet that will destroy planet Earth. It all comes down to how they go about that material. If it's too far in terms of being on the nose, well, then maybe it won't be as appreciated as I think it will be. But I think Adam McKay is smart enough to bring us a really, hopefully, complex script, so I see it getting in that top 10. The next film I want to talk about is Taika Waititi's brand new movie. Elizabeth Moss, Armie Hammer, so maybe that might be something that keeps it out, but also Michael Fassbender. How do you not go with Taika Waititi at this point? Building up to Jojo Rabbit, he was getting a lot of love in terms of, screenplay and just in general being well-respected as a director. Thor Ragnarok was awesome, but then he comes out with Jojo Rabbit and it wins screenplay. It gets nominated for all of these different awards, and he deserved it. So I have to go with a movie that looks like it's going to be dramatic. It's a sports film. It's not like a Moneyball, but it is one that I think has a shot in terms of genre. And then adapting this documentary, the story of this American Samoa soccer team who suffered the worst loss in World Cup history, losing to Australia 31-0 in 2001. And you're going to see Michael Fassbender do a lot of screaming because I believe he's playing the coach here. So we don't know when it's expected. And honestly, it could even come out after the Oscar window is gone, but it's been worked on for so long. We talked about it in my video last year. It's got to come out at some point. I think it gets in if it comes out. The next film we're talking about is West Side Story. The track record is essentially what I'm going off of here. I'm also looking forward to the movie, but you have to go with Steven Spielberg and what he's been able to do outside of the genre films, right? The last few movies that he's done, Bridge of Spies, all of these, really Oscar-baity movies, well, they'll always get the nomination. And I believe West Side Story is following that path. The release date, December 10th. That is prime Oscar window. Just recreating a film that a lot of people hold dear, and that could be a detriment. If this film doesn't hit like I think it's going to hit, it could really miss out on a Best Picture nomination. But a musical, a Steven Spielberg musical, and one that a lot of people know, it almost seems like a sure bet at this point, so it's hard to vote against it. Then we have Dune. And my personal list, you guys know where this ranks. It's number 1. But Best Picture nomination. Why am I putting it in here? Why am I putting it in here when Denis Villeneuve missed out with Blade Runner? Well, he didn't miss out with Arrival, but he did miss out with Blade Runner and Prisoners. So does the Academy, respect him on the level that I believe they should? I would have nominated Blade Runner. I can't even remember some of the other movies nominated that year, but I do remember Blade Runner, right? But then you look at just the idea behind this, the idea that it's based off of this book, which was a film, so people essentially know kind of what it is. They'll kind of know what it is going in, but then you mix that with his style, complex and sometimes unconventional style that does normally leans heavy into something that the Academy would like. And I believe you mix that with Dune and the fact that this does have mass appeal. It is essentially a blockbuster. This and Eternals are 2 movies that I look at, and I'm like, they really do have a good chance. And similar styles of films. But you have the director here, and you have the cast from Timothée Chalamet to Rebecca Ferguson. If you guys have seen the pictures, and you've seen how stacked this thing is, I really hope this hits. It's one of my most anticipated movies in a long time, and I believe Dune could be something special, so I've got to put it on my list. I'm a bit biased. I understand that. Next up is a movie that I have seen. I watched it, In the Heights. But you know what? The embargo hasn't lifted, so I can't say a word about it. All I can say is that I believe, and this isn't even a personal thing, right? I had In the Heights on this list prior to myself seeing it, but it is one of those crowd-pleasing, we're going back to the theater. June, it's kind of when everybody is starting to get back out there and gathering. You have everyone outside dancing in this film, and it's this monumental musical. And, in my personal opinion, we could see 2 musicals nominated for Best Picture this year, West Side Story and In the Heights. Which one do I believe has a better chance? The release date is a little bit scary. I still got to go with it. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's a great cast. It's all of these things coming together. And In the Heights is just, it's a spectacle, and we knew that from the trailer, but I'll dive a little bit deeper into it when I can talk about it, but I have it on my list. So, okay, The Tragedy of Macbeth. Now, this is one of the Coen brothers, just Joel Coen. So if it was both, I'd be like, oh, yeah, it's the Coen brothers. It's probably going to get nominated for Best Picture. And it's a lot easier to predict this with this movie rather than their last film because of all the different stories combining together. It was a Netflix film. This one is Macbeth. It's a little bit of a different spin on it. We're going a different direction with the story. We're making it to where I believe it could be more accessible for people, which could help with the Oscar love. But let's take a look at this cast. Denzel Washington, Brendan Gleeson, Frances McDormand. Yeah, you've got Joel Coen. I just don't know how this doesn't. Now, if it doesn't hit, if it's not as good as we expect it to be, I could say that about all these movies. I believe The Tragedy of Macbeth gets in based solely on the talent, and then knowing Macbeth, that's going to help as well. The next movie is House of Gucci. Now, Ridley Scott has 2 movies coming out this year. This is the one that I believe has the better shot, so this is what I'm putting on the list. We've seen a lot of these behind-the-scenes pictures. Obviously, Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, and I'm loving all the different outfits we're getting from Adam Driver. And I think this is one that looks, doesn't it just look and feel like a Best Picture nominated movie? And then you have the release date of November 24th. And then you have Ridley Scott, who has been there and done that with the Oscars. And then you have this cast, Jared Leto, Adam Driver, Jeremy Irons, Lady Gaga, Salma Hayek, and Al Pacino. Ha! Ooh, yeah, I had to put this pretty high up because it's just everything about it. And then the genre of it being, a dramatic, thriller, biopic-esque film based on a book. Yeah, House of Gucci. How do you go wrong with a movie like that? Then we have a film that's funny because I put it on last year's list and I had no clue what this movie was about. The rumor is that this film is called Canterbury Glass, okay? So we're going to call it Canterbury Glass, not Untitled David O. Russell, because that won't be the title of the movie when it comes out. I really don't know what this movie is about, but I do know that David O. Russell has, again, been there, done that with the Oscars. We have to go by track record, but we can also go by cast. Anya Taylor-Joy, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Christian Bale, Zoe Saldana, Robert De Niro, Timothy Olyphant, Rami Malek, Mike Myers, Chris Rock, Michael Shannon, Andrea Riseborough. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much more. Let's take a look at some of these behind-the-scenes pictures. It really does feel like a Best Picture nominated movie. The cast is incredible. The concept behind it is really interesting. It is a period piece. It is David O. Russell. Need I say more? I believe I don't need to say more. Put it on there last year. If it gets delayed again, I'm done. At the 2 spot, I believe just an outstanding chance of getting a Best Picture nomination, Nightmare Alley. Now, this kind of film with any other director attached, I would be like, I don't know, because the genre, I don't know if it has a shot, but Guillermo del Toro, he won Best Picture, right? And we understand that the Academy loves him. We understand that this is just the kind of movie. And then you combine that with the cast, Toni Collette, Cate Blanchett, Bradley Cooper. I believe Bradley Cooper is one of the leads of this film. Rooney Mara, Willem Dafoe. Man, Dafoe is going to have a great year this year. But I love this idea as well. So an ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is. This has been talked about for a long time. This is one of those movies that everything about it is kind of lining up correctly for it to get a lot of love in that regard, and I believe it's going to be a really good film regardless. So just in terms of looking at the Oscars, I believe it has the best shot. What's the date? December 3rd. Yeah, that's prime Oscar window. And finally, Paul Thomas Anderson. Doesn't matter what he's directing, I'm going to give this the best chance because he is the most Academy-appreciated director on this list. We know that. We understand that. And the cast to go along with it, along with the premise, Soggy Bottom, which is pretty funny, the Soggy Bottom Boys. Oh, brother, where art thou? That's what I thought of. Then the concept in the 1970s San Fernando Valley, which we know he loves the San Fernando Valley, the film follows a high school student who is also a successful child actor. Bradley Cooper, again. We could see, at this point, it looks like triple nomination for Bradley Cooper this year. But Benny Safdie, we got a Safdie brother in there. Really great supporting cast. A couple of individuals that I'm super excited to see them, not for the first time, but to see them potentially break out, so we could see some acting nominations within this movie. And then we look at the fact that Paul Thomas Anderson just has an outstanding track record. And some of these photos, it just looks like a great time in the theater, combined with the credibility for Oscars in the first place. And I believe Cooper Hoffman is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. And Cooper Hoffman is described as one of the leads of this movie. So you've got some kind of credibility there as well. So it may not be my favorite of the bunch just because of the genre, and some of these others I'm a little bit more excited about. But anytime PTA is behind the camera, I'm going to get excited. More importantly for this video, I believe anytime he's behind the camera, the Academy is going to get excited. And this is a predictions video. This is not which one am I looking forward to more, but Soggy Bottom could absolutely be in my top 10 movies at the end of the year. What a phenomenal director. So that's why, in my opinion, Soggy Bottom is the most likely nominated film. Now, does that mean it will win? Just have to see. We have to see which one of these strikes that chord and has that nice balance of the audience loving it, the Academy loving it, and kind of everything coming together. But if we look at all of these projects, this year is stacked. What I need from you guys, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by dropping your thumbs up button down below and leave your comments. What movie did I leave off? What is your order? What is the film that you think has the most likely shot? You're truly the best. Thank you so much for watching. What a fun video this was, and I'll see you very soon.